actually love the word chasing.
I know. And then let's talk about it, because like I'm sure all our listeners will agree, chasing feedback has become a big part of our job, right?
It is.
You brought this up.
And oftentimes you have to manage it. But I will say that I wanted to cover not just feedback, but the startup material post initial kickoff. Like,
yeah, what could you do to eliminate it?
If clients don't have their shit together, what to do?
Yeah.
How to, like, there's a reason we say this estimate is valid for 30 days.
Yeah. And you stick to that, because I was just talking to someone the other day about that, and they're like, I have that in my contract, but I'm not sticking to it. Like, the client comes back 40 days later and I'm still like, oh, okay. And I'm like, maybe we should be, and brutal, And I don't want to say brutal, but
you don't want to lose.
Firm. Firm.
Yeah, let's just open this up.
Yeah, the can of worms is open. Yeah. That's what we're talking about today, guys.
But I love chasing feedback. That's
all right,
fabulous.
So you think this is a growing trend? I agree too. You're seeing it more often. The idea of like clients ghosting, unclear feedback, or this is the worst one: stalled momentum. Like, oh, that's the worst for me. So you're seeing it more often.
Actually, that might be the good title.
Yeah, stalled momentum. Okay.
That's so
I'll ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT's been helping us create titles for the last maybe 6 months, and
I love it.
It works. It works.
You might be one of the few that's admitting it, but that we're not alone with this.
Yeah, please. Come on.
But I will say that is the full throttle experience in my orbit fairly recently. And what's interesting is that we've covered this subject every now and again in pockets for years, and I've never really been able to speak to it.
Yeah.
The jumpstart of 2025 is on 2 separate accounts for my business that this is really, really dragging projects. So, as a freelancer, we work month to month, sometimes week by week. We can't really project the schedule. Some people come in with a heavy load, coming in hot last minute. We can't really anticipate. Well, similarly, at the forefront, you put together your estimate, and you like to be able to put together some means for a timeline. Well, oftentimes we all know that projects don't abide to it. But it's a goal setting realm at the beginning, right? Well, oftentimes with that, you just gain some momentum, and then you have standing weekly cadence meetings to keep the ball rolling and to essentially corner individuals on the project, so that where are we at? How's it going? Okay, at this time next week, can you have this, and this prepared, please, to review? And that's been the case for my business for a long, long time. Well, finally, I put my foot down last month after having kicked off in November to say, listen, you've been designated. You're the delegate for this project, and you still do not have material for us to work with. And this individual keeps pushing off and blaming other individuals internally at their end. Well, if you've been delegated, then do your job and corner and do what you have to do to get some decisions made. So stalling. So I finally just removed all of those cadence meetings from the calendar and sent a very professional, minimal communication noting, let us know when you're ready to roll.
Good.
Like, that time is money. If nothing is happening and you've got copywriters sitting in, you've got an animator sitting in, you've got the developer sitting in, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Now, did you force that with anything from your agreement that says, if we put this pause because of lack of feedback or momentum or whatever we want to call it, is there a fee to come back in? Or is it just a pause now that you're saying you're not on my front burner any longer?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because like
it does, and that's a really good point.
I have that in my clause. I've never had to use it. The idea of like, if it stalls for more than 30 days, I think is what it is, then this is considered done. Like we are over, no refund, and to jump back in, there is a initiation fee. But
No.
I don't
Yeah.
know anybody.
So, and I will admit this.
That's a tough one to ask.
They're so apologetic. They know.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They know it's on them.
Okay.
So I'm admitting that makes it hard to like put the foot down and be firm and say, where's my money? Call me when you're ready. Because even though we're well practiced at this point and we consider ourselves seniors, we still want to have the job. We're still competing with a shitload of people out there.
Oh, yeah.
That would do just as well, if not better than what we're manifesting. So at what point do you just close that door? I mean, I'm not hungry from the work, but I want the reputation to remain. I want that good, loyal relationship to remain. This jump started as a referral to begin with.
Yeah.
So you want to do good on that end with the colleague that referred you and not put a bad taste in anyone's mouth. So one, you're reminding me that it's good to place that clause language in.
Or enforce it if you already have it.
or enforce it.
That would be me.
But now that rough timeline had been generated stating that by spring we will have launched and wrapped up and then potentially jumpstart phase 2, because as a site evolves and you're able to obtain user analysis, then you know what to double down on, what to remove, what to edit, what to adjust like crazy. And we're not even at the jumpstart to UI.
Oh, wow. So it's way behind.
It's a hanger.
Ooh.
And there's brand elements, like everybody's in arguments internally about what to do with, it's like there's mayhem a little bit at the end of the client. And while that may be understanding and you can recognize, we're also asking to meet with sales. We're asking to meet with other faces other than this one individual that's standing in for the client as a whole.
Gotcha.
And there's been no budge there either. So you can't force that. I'm not going to drive over there and show up in my car and say, I'd like to meet Matt, please.
Yeah. And you could have never seen this coming when you're onboarding, right? They might have look all buttoned up. Like, oh, look at this company.
And what's funny, and what I mean by funny, truly is annoying, is that when I was preparing my proposal, it was, this is needed yesterday. We need to get going.
Wow. Of course. Yeah. If I had $1 for every time I've heard that and then it goes on pause, forget about it. You know what? Okay. If this is happening more frequently, I have a theory, but I want to hear yours. Why do you think this is happening so much in general? Because I'm hearing this from everybody too. When you brought this up, I was like, oh yeah. I mean, it's not to the extent of like, oh my gosh, my agency's at a standstill because of lack of feedback. But I just feel like these little stalls and these little things about you having to chase the feedback.
Yeah.
Especially with a company that says we are already behind the ball at the beginning and wants to be done tomorrow. Yeah. Why do you think it's happening?
For me personally, I believe it's a matter of not having employed enough individuals to channel all of these components of the business.
Yeah.
And that it's still loosey-goosey since the pandemic about remaining flexible with those that want to work from home, those that want to travel, those that you're sending to shows, and they're not readily available in-house to meet and get shit determined.
Yep. You have just completely explained my theory as well.
Okay. You were going to go there?
I was just going to say a company mismanaged. And you just nailed it. They're working on shoestring budgets. They've had to cut. They have less people. I think less talented people. I think people have hired far too much on, I know Steve from my old job, or something like that comes on in. Maybe not have been the best person to be in that role. People want to hire that way without having to go through the whole process a lot of times. And I think you nailed it too. There's this kind of like lack of responsibility and 9 to 5 grind.
Yeah, held accountable.
Oh, yeah. They don't want to say it, but maybe, Mike, who's holding you back, has been golfing a lot lately. I don't know. So like, but again, it's that lack of like responsibility. And then we're all on these Slack and Trello kind of things that have their advantages. But the downside, I really think sometimes is what you're just seeing right now. It's just a inept company with some issues, and it's showing when you are at that point right now where you're like, your little machine ain't working and I'm not getting what I need.
Yeah.
And I think that's the number one reason everyone's going through this right now.
And
inexperienced people too, because everybody opened a business during COVID.
Okay.
So think about it. You might be killing it. You might have this great business you started 4 years ago. But
I can see that.
Are these really experienced people that know how to run a business?
Another organization, Nick, is our lead top consultant just resigned.
Okay. That's bad.
They were huge for our ROI.
Yeah.
So now you're suggesting that we undergo a CMS migration, and now I have to pitch to the CEO. We can do this anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So internal changes can be part of it, naturally, in all honesty.
Yeah. Budgets.
Layoffs for whoever was leading a project with us as the vendor
could be
is
gone.
now no longer. And then we have to re-educate the person that's stepping in to that individual's place about what areas are needed for approval in order to move forward with this phase and then this phase and thereafter. And so if that case scenario comes about, do you charge extra for that? Because you're revisiting.
Oh, you're educating.
You're having
That's not your job.
No, and there was no way that we could have anticipated, and unfortunately the organization could have anticipated that was going to take place.
Yeah.
However, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now you're asking me to meet with Nancy, Joseph, and their bosses to explain status? Well, that's a penny at least.
Yeah. I get that you're probably the only one that can do that. But again, in most situations, that's the role of the company to put somebody else up to speed. But again, you might be the best person to do that. That might be an interesting thing to drop into to an agreement. If there's a change in contact or the point person, yeah, exactly. And there is
then
a
change
setback,
of course. Yeah.
that is additional time out of this scope of our thing. Ooh,
I like it.
We just discovered
that's another clause.
a fix. I love it.
That's another clause.
I think I want to mention too, you mentioned how obviously this affects timeline, but it also affects kind of like mental health. It's like, it's a frustrating,
such a
keep
good
you
point.
up at night kind of thing, just particularly when the momentum was just flying and going great. And that little pause, forget about it. And then not to mention the final product, right? Like that's really what suffers in a lot of ways. It's like we were doing so well on time, on budget, on creative strategy, whatever. And then all this crap happens. Imagine you'd never know what the final product could have been if it didn't happen,
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Also, this is the case with my brother's company where he initiated everything and it's expanded, but he's still the go-to person.
Yeah.
Well, somebody needs to corner Kyle in order to move forward. Well, if you've expanded, you need to educate all of those so you're not you're not needing to be pinned down for all these instances. That's a tough one because then it cascades to us in order to get marketing projects done.
Yeah. So our thought here was to like, what could we do to kind of help you guys, ourselves, kind of reclaim that control a little bit? Because I think it's one of those things that's like spring cleaning. Like every once in a while, you got to look at it and be like, am I doing a good enough job controlling and doing this? And you don't want to burn bridges. Most of the time I talk with people,
get paranoid about that.
Isn't it funny? Like anyone that I talk to or that reach out for or when I do it the same and reach out for advice, we always end it with, and I don't want to burn any bridges. I don't want to sound this? Like, it's like, again, it's our livelihood, right? And these pitfalls. So if we look at it this way, what happens when client feedback is delayed or it's quite vague? What the downsides are everywhere, right? We just talked about it. Lack of kind of like momentum. The end product could definitely be there as well. But like, if it's delayed, do you get that feeling like, do you care, client? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not a good feeling.
Your level of ambition,
Yeah,
passion, and motivation
yeah.
for the project takes a slide.
totally. You're like, I thought we were this.
I know.
We were
I'm
brothers in
thinking
design.
about it less before I go to bed, in the shower. I'm like not as big and fancy and having that awesome anxiety about, oh, I have this idea. I know how I can give that a lift, or I know how.
Yeah.
It just is kind of like you said. It fizzles. It fizzles.
Yeah, it's a
From the
bad
passion.
feeling.
Now, do we ever communicate that? Oh,
No, you can't.
However,
Yeah, unless it gets to something that's like we're talking legal, then you can
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, I've got
point.
some shit to tell
That's
you,
a
buddy.
different- yeah. That's a good point. But no, yeah, you got to keep this under arms. I mean,
Yeah, I find that easier in the last few years, maybe because we are dealing with it more. But when you take it away, I used to take it personally. That was so stupid to do, right? But we're one people shows, a lot of us, right? So who else is going to take it? But I can't do that any longer.
It's not stupid though, Nick. We need to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the driving agent. So it feels huge in that moment.
Yeah.
It's not stupid. I mean, we're human here. So if it's our baby and we're driving it and we pitched full throttle for it, proposal wise, yeah, it just gets to be that way. It just does.
When scope creep kind of that's the first sign sometimes for me, when a client kind of is trying to squeeze something in, and then it puts a stall again on that momentum. It puts a stall on the process you've been doing because something's been added. And let's say it's even a small thing that you agree on. That could be a snowball effect. I've noticed that in the past where one more option, or they're like, oh, I didn't mention there was a second SKU on this one. And you're like, no. And we've been talking for 3 months now.
It just kind of slide it in there.
And I don't want to be an ass, so sometimes it's like, okay, but I might even say like, oh, that's going to be an extra. They're like fine with it. But there's the little, I call it like a hiccup. And
yeah, isn't that huge when the client says, we fully expect this to be an add-on?
Yeah.
This is shifting scope.
Yeah.
Please bill us as suited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that so refreshing when that takes place?
Oh.
It doesn't a lot.
Ooh.
At
You
all.
just brought up a great point. The fact that there are those clients that totally understand it and are that gracious with it.
Yes.
It puts a spotlight on the ones that don't even more.
Totally. And don't you gather that when you find out that the client point of contact used to have a position in marketing or creative or something, is when that's fully understood?
Yeah.
And that hardly ever takes place.
Yeah.
Like, I recently had a point of contact get into Photoshop and run expand generator for me and send me a new file to work with. And I'm like, that's awesome. I was going to do that. I was going to do that this weekend. Thank you for that. Like,
wow.
That never happens.
I would take that so half and half. Half of me would be like, amazing, thank you. But then there'd be a part of me that's like,
are you questioning me here?
that's my job. And you're not you're not supposed to know about that amazing little
twerk
generative fill. My gosh,
well,
to a very novice Photoshop user, I love it.
That's an interesting point. It is both sides.
Yeah,
it is both sides.
But then you're like, hey.
However, they still need me. They still need me.
Yes, I know.
Sure, they can run that and point and shoot, but
Sure.
they still need this
Oh,
process.
you know where it kills me is when they go, hey, I tried out a logo design on ChatGPT because I've been hearing all the buzz. And you're like, we have a signed off logo already, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, calm the fuck down.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
I had one do that. And then sometimes
wait, back up.
Yeah.
So you ran a brand identity project.
Oh, we were signed off and we're building the whole
and
style
then
guide.
you're initiating a different project for the
No,
company.
no, the client just goes, hey, I messed around with this logo builder on ChatGPT, and I kind of like this
After the
better.
fact.
Oh, yeah. And you're like, so maybe again, another disclaimer.
Wait. What did you say?
I just was, I I fired back. Okay. I used AI to fix my AI problem. I went on ChatGPT. I said, a client has reached out, showed me something they just, throw 4 words into a prompt and thought they got a compelling brand logo when we've already done one. Can you please give me like 5 things that will shut this conversation down immediately? And it did. It's like, we've spent time and effort in describing something, and it axed it. They were like, okay, we just were curious. And I was
Why?
like, what?
Why the curiosity?
Again, unexperienced business owner or decision maker. Again, going back to all the reasons we talked about at the beginning, everyone wants to be the shining star, right? And maybe this person was like on the team going like, what if got to put...
Can I ask you an honest question?
Sure.
With that? How did it make you feel?
At first, it's a hit, but then again, because being an AI user, I kind of laughed at it and went like, oh, it's kind of like when all the logo tournament and 99 designs came out years ago, where I just said, go ahead, client, try. Yeah, you're going to get crap, crap in, crap out. So I was excited about axing this with them immediately, and I gave them the most...
In 2030, are they going to still get crap?
Well, no. But again... I think it's our job to use whatever tools are there to make it work better and to eliminate this kind of
need. Did you
have
have the desire to run a side-by-side and share?
I didn't even want to put it at that level. You know what I mean? Do you guys understand that? It's like, if it, like, putting it side by side says it's of equal value, so let's compare. I didn't even want to get to that level. I was like, I'm shutting this down with words, because I was like, and if they only knew that AI helped me get rid of AI, it was awesome. So, but now, like, again, maybe that's another thing to say, like, we use AI in a exploratory and blah blah way, but we still have a linear process and timeline, and there's a time for AI and there's not. I don't know.
So
I'm going to find some way to put that in now.
I think I agree with you with that. I don't mean to demean the purpose of this show.
Mm-hmm.
What would happen? I've done this even with my dad. Just lost a best friend. And I didn't know what to say.
I love it for that.
So I ran it.
Same here.
And I admitted it the following day to Jason, and I felt kind of shitty about it.
No, I think you're that. You knew saying the right thing would be, and if it could be better than your own words, wouldn't that help your dad's? You know what I mean?
That was the thought process there for sure.
I love that.
In that emotional regard.
Okay.
Why wouldn't we spit that same case situation into, or you just shared that you did, but mine would have been more emotional.
Yes.
I'm feeling low about a client presenting to me that they ran brand identity through an AI generator after we've already successfully launched the brand with my creative.
Yeah.
Now, you generated that prompt and query differently than I just did.
Of course. Yeah. No, but I use it.
So now I'm interested. Now I'm curious about what kind of feedback we'd obtain from that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. Yeah.
But anyway.
But I'm glad I bring it up for, where I really use it the most is when you have to do those introductory emails, show one to the next, and that, like, hey, Steve, meet Bob. Hey, Bob, meet Steve.
I know.
Like that email, I have it as a saved project.
Yeah.
And I can just put in the 2 names, who they are.
That's a great idea.
Because, like, again, like because
you can tailor that template so that it's that's a great idea.
That's a good one as well. But I am using it back to where we are, is this idea of when I don't know how to say the right thing, or if a client has disappeared for a few weeks, right? I would just be like, hey, is everything okay? Like, that's the stupidest thing to write. Like, now you have to
Yeah.
say, hey, it's been 2 weeks since we heard you. Number one, our project timeline is completely void. Two, is this still happening? Like, I love where AI gives me that confidence. And you tell it, you're like, I tell it, it's like you're a project manager and the entire project is off the rails. I need an email that's going to bring it back. What should we say? I use it for to
That's
get
so
us back
great.
on track with
That's so
that
great.
all the time. Because like I noticed that the disappearing thing seems to be that's the thing I feel is really on trend, and I'm hearing this from a lot of people who,
So even with payments, I've been running into
yeah,
that. The final
again,
payment.
I think that goes back to is they thought they had the bucks, and 4 months later, when it's time to make a payment to you, maybe the bucks aren't there. So inexperience, you know,
Yeah.
maybe they lost funding. I think that's
Yeah.
another thing. I've gotten
We
that
need you to
before.
take our site down. We don't need the hosting support anymore. Please send final
Wow.
invoice.
Yeah.
And then crickets.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
And not enough to send to collections. Not worth
Oh,
it.
sure. And then you're kind of like, so maybe again, are you calculating that risk in your process and your billing? I always want to be at any given time, I want to have more paid for than what I've done.
Yeah.
Like
That's a good call.
that's a great way to kind of think about it.
That's
And
a
yeah,
very
and
good call.
that does take a lot of
And in fact, applicable to any facets.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time, you know.
It does. It does.
How do you push back? How do you push for feedback when sounding without sounding like a little bit desperate or annoying? Like a lot of times, maybe it's the second or third time, but what would you do? Like, are you? I don't think I've ever gotten to that point. We're going over kind of like the most frequently asked questions when it comes to like what you guys have talked about or sent us. So like, how do I push back or push for more feedback without sounding desperate or annoying? I think just staying professional is obviously number one. Again, we don't want to burn bridges, right?
Yeah. A general go-to for me is asking for the expansion. And
Yeah.
and I just lost it. The word not reiterate, but iterate
Oh,
on.
yes.
Please. So, and then I might spell out and provide examples. For example, you might want you could demonstrate or exemplify brightness, toning, saturation, or even pull up online imagery
Yeah.
to indicate the type of feedback example that you're specifying. So sometimes I will have to spell things out, and especially for those individuals that are like insurance brokers,
Yeah.
like that just don't know how really to explain what they mean, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You almost have to like almost give them a little bit of like a head start or a handout or something to kind of lead the way in a lot of ways.
Right.
And I think they want to be, I think a lot of them, that's an interesting one because if they're so non-creative, like if you just bolster up your confidence in what you do, I think you get a better follower with a client rather than
Yes.
a clash.
This is great. So last night I'm at my daughter's softball game, and I see an email come in that says, "We love the image of the family." This is for a website. But can you replace the ocean with Lake Coeur d'Alene or something to that effect? And I admit, I saw that and I thought, "Are you fucking kidding me with that? Are you asking me to superimpose individuals with a completely different background?"
Yeah.
Am I a Lightroom professional? No. Could it be done? Sure. At a number of billable hours or whatever. So I calm myself down.
Good.
I don't respond until the following morning, and I say, "Can I send you some lakeside options?"
Good.
But I had to sleep,
Of course.
and I had to have my wine. I had to be with my family.
Oh, It's so funny. The day could be going so well, and then that just pops out. Isn't that crazy? Here's one that I get a few times. This is a good one. Okay, commonly asked question. I sent 3 logo options, and then they said, "Can we mash all these together?" And I just laughed when I read that because,
Oh
like,
boy.
okay, so my first solution to that is I'm down to 2 logos only.
But can we recognize first, though, Nick,
Oh.
that means this is an awesome problem.
Oh, yes.
They are
Yeah.
digging everything you've delivered. And perhaps you
Yeah.
should have been that one designer that delivered the fucking one option.
One. And then it doesn't happen. And now I'm getting, that is the most attractive new goal. I've narrowed it down to 2. 2 is my max now. I never go
lately for
above.
me, it's 1.
Yeah,
I'm
good.
like, this is it.
Yeah. And I think if you can't just go 1, obviously you have to tell them up front that's what you're getting. 2, you have to, if you explain it in its full entirety to say this is the option we've built in Discovery, this is it, they're great. But even with 2, I just had it happen. And I remembered going, this was my first time doing only 2 to a recent client. Usually it was 3. And so I was ready to send it. And I said, wait a minute, go back before I do anything. I put it 2 or 3 slides before each concept to explain why they are individually so good.
Okay.
Knowing I had a feeling this client was going to want it the Frankenstein, right? Can we take this element from this and swap because we really like it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm the problem because I'm giving them 2 similar looking things that feel interchangeable.
What kept you from saying, I'm at a good spot for a review session?
Meaning like
so
not
that
doing this?
You can see the reaction, you screen share, you're together, and you obtain feedback on the spot.
You mean like when I showed them the 2?
Yeah.
So
You're saying you did you did both.
Before. I did it before. So I was ready to send it. And I said, wait a minute. I have a feeling this is going to be the client that asks for the Frankenstein. Because in their mind, they don't see that these are 2 unique, different approaches, even for the same common goal, right? But I've had a feeling, because they've been a little bit iffy on pricing and everything, that they're trying to get their money's worth a lot. And so I thought this would be a chance for them. What makes me laugh is, 1, a client doing that, I know it's not a reflection on me and the work I'm showing them. That's just someone who feels the need to play a bit of the art director, and they're not, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was the slides leading up to each concept really honed in on a specific thing about them. I explained why the typography was of one way, the character and mascot were one way, and the colors were one way. Then when we went to option 2, all of that kind of changed. So they did ask for the Frankenstein after presenting it. And guess what? I in a 5 minutes, I turned that completely down. And they were like, you're right. Because I went back to those slides and I said, no, they weren't built this way. They're built to be independent, cohesive things that work together. Doing that confuses your consumer. Is that what you want to do? And they were like, no.
Well done.
Done. I was like, what did I just say?
Well done. I know.
I just wrote it down.
Do you ever run? Do you typically record?
No, I do not. That's a good idea. Secretly, I was going to do it and like show my students a presentation, but I'd rather.
Oh, they would probably love that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I will ask their. Next time it happens, I'll ask their permission.
What do you typically run your meetings in? Is it through
Zoom? If we don't live in the same city, I do Zoom or Google Meet, whatever one. But I use Loom as well, which can record. Also, Zoom's the easy one to record as well. I think I might do that because then I know there's all these AI things now that will take your notes and summarize.
Oh my gosh.
And give you
it's been game changing for me. Zoom's.
That's good.
I'm just waiting for the email notice that says we're going to start charging for this. It's called AI Companion.
Yes. Isn't that great?
I love it.
So that's the stuff I want AI more in. It's like, help me in the background.
Document.
Right? Like you even said when a client goes off the rails and maybe Steve's gone and now you've been waiting for Steve for forever on that and the timeline's messed up. I would love AI. I'd love to go in there and be like, hey, project manager, chat GPT, like Steve's gone, blah, blah, blah. We are down 1 week, whatever. Rearrange the timeline. We will start back. Wouldn't that be insane? And then it fleshes out a new one. So the client could see in a heartbeat that, oh, we can't magically just get this done by the same deadline.
That's a great tool
That's coming.
idea.
That's got to be coming.
It's got to be. That's super fun.
Yeah. How about this? Is it okay to fire a client when things just stop working? I have no problem with that any longer. No problem. I don't have time.
No.
Sorry. I only want to work with the best. And
okay, so in other words,
let's say it's over and over and over.
Meeting after meeting,
pause after pause. Well, no, we're coming back. We need another 3 weeks. We haven't paid the second thing hasn't been paid. That's enough.
Or instead insist upon a different billing method.
Oh, if you can.
So that here's to date the allotted time and effort based on where we're at. It's no secret that we've had some pause and jump starts and then pauses again. Please let me know if I don't know. I was trying to do the professional follow-up.
I know firing sounds like you're burning a bridge. And that's Nick's knee-jerk reaction to be like, yes, I can fire you right now.
Yeah.
I'm not that Johnny on the spot when it's the real deal. I'll think I like to sleep on it, obviously.
Yeah. It's healthy too anyway.
But there's other variables too. Do you have 9 other projects right now that are doing fine? And this one's the sore thumb. Do you have nothing else? And this is the only one you're working on and you do want to finish it? So there's variables, You're
right. Any given week. But maybe that's not fair. Maybe
True.
It shouldn't be applicable. It shouldn't be based on how your week is or your month is going. And maybe it's a standard.
Yeah.
So listen, we're at 4 weeks now without any movement.
Yeah.
Please see the attached invoice and let me know when you're ready to roll. I can be available at this time.
Yeah. So now
I'm tied until
give them the new window, right? And if your agreement says something about the initiation fee, that's a nice way to finish it off and make a little extra money from it because of the downfall without firing them, right?
Even still, since there's so many alternates out there, I would be nervous about, clearly she doesn't want this job. So I'm going to ask Melinda to get, to see in her network who else we can establish a relationship with.
But don't you feel like true colors matter? Like every time I get that at the beginning, that relationship doesn't last.
Yeah. It's telling.
It's been rare.
Right.
There's exceptions. I'd say there's been some rare times where it was just the beginning stages of maybe some funding issues or whatever. And then things were smooth sailing after that. That's happened a few times.
Yeah, but it is not common.
I think you're right in saying have a standard. Don't let actual variables of that moment make the decision for you if it's right or wrong. I think saying no has been the hardest thing for me to finally get to do, but now it's the easiest thing. Because once you have been put through the ringer a few times and you've felt the heat of these situations, I don't want to go through them again. It's just, it isn't worth it. And I think there's a way to bow out gracefully and still not burn a bridge.
Have respect for each other. What do you do when you know that you are the one consultant?
Yeah.
And there's weekly meetings and there's an event coming up. They need a shit ton of collateral.
Yeah.
Nobody's still getting you content. You know when production needs to take place.
Yeah.
Lead time needs to take place.
Good. Okay. I see what
They're
you're saying.
hearing you say the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Nobody's getting you content to work with.
Ooh.
They
Again,
are a loyal long-term account.
gotcha. I think there's only a certain amount of time you can do your magic. You have to have that cutoff date and it has to be crystal clear. Let's say you're working with one vendor or multiple vendors for all that collateral, right? In most cases, it's probably multiple vendors, right? They're going to tell you to deliver because they're the end of the totem pole, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it sucks. You never want it to be on the printer or the person,
No.
particularly if it was brought in from you. I don't want them to have to like make up for all that lost time. That's that's totally unfair.
Right.
So I will tell them, let's say it's April 15th is the drop dead. And if it's not in there, whatever. So let's say it gets close and it's April 12th, whatever, and I still got nothing. I'll almost call it at that point and go, guys, it's not going to happen. So sorry. You guys dropped the ball. It was due on the 15th, whatever.
Do you say those words?
Yeah. You have to. Because, I mean, for so many years when I was in my agency world, creative was always at the very end, right?
Yeah.
Sales went out and did this.
Same.
Our VP went out and schmoozed a new client, whatever, and handshakes and everything. And then it was like, because it was always tied into a big movie release, we had a drop dead date. Like, you can't be late. And guess who always made up for it? Creative, And then quality suffered. The concept itself suffered.
QA,
Everyone was working under stressful times every time something was done. So now maybe that's that part of me that wants to stand up and say like, no, like we can't I'm not a magician. Hey, there's a good shirt.
Oh, I know.
I'm not a magician. It's like,
it's that unicorn speak. Yeah.
And it's unfair to the other vendor. And I think that's another thing. I think they will appreciate you doing that.
It triggers,
I've seen people make some pretty good magic though when, let's say, a client finally got something the night of the deadline or something. But again, is this another clause we have to say there? If things are provided beyond the deadline date, prepare for streamlined concepts and design.
Yeah.
It's going to be vanilla.
What about those meetings where they make it clear, we don't want to do this to MKM, over the weekend, and then it inevitably fucking happens.
Sure.
And you're having to horseshoe everything at the last minute.
Oh, if it's the first time that happens with the client and the client's been good all of a sudden, I'm like, I put my cape on and I'm like, Super Nick, we're coming to the rescue. If it keeps going that way, then it's up to you.
Since you super nicked, do you set a precedent?
Sure.
Damn.
I know. You can't
That's
win.
tough.
You can't win. Like,
no.
Maybe you say, hey, I know this is our first rodeo with you. These things happen.
This cannot be the expectation.
This can't be the expectation, but I got you. And I would want someone to do that if I've hired them. I always put myself in that shoe too.
Yeah.
Whoever you would go and hire.
That's a good point to swap it there for a moment.
But you're right. This is not the norm. Let's remember that. Like, we're here. We got to this for a reason. Someone did drop the ball. Our goal for the next time is no one drops the ball.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. All right. How do we control this? How do we get this better? Setting expectations early. How many times have we just mentioned, go back to your original agreement or something and I like to do this. Think of the pain points. Think of the times you've gone through a project where it really fucked up. How can you cover yourself? We just talked about a few ways you can add that in there. It's ever changing, right? Changing that agreement all the time.
Yes, I do. I rework it. And I'm oftentimes still being shared, even though I educate 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Is preferred.
Yeah.
Like, for this week we will need from you, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be shaking my head like, really? And maybe to be totally frank with you, I can crank it that very week. But that's besides the point.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the principle. Yeah. Like, did you not hear or read the line items that I've provided you with?
What if they say, but Mikelle, can't AI help you with that?
Do you get that?
I haven't yet.
Me
No.
neither.
I know it's in the back of their mind because they're
Me neither.
probably that's why I love being as glued into AI news as possible because I'm anticipating that one day and then I want to be able to fire back
Yeah,
like no,
I hope
no,
that never comes about.
we're not
but
at that we're not
it
at
is
that
only a
point
matter
yet.
of time. You're probably
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So a few things. Kickoff calls, obviously a good point to get a feel for them. I think I've go with your gut.
Lay it all out.
I could tell how, right? It's like, when it's going to be like, you're like, oh, I love these people. This feels good. Then there's certain times doesn't. So that's one thing. The welcome packet. I think I've made more shareable documents now before we even have a kickoff call. If it's a prospected client, I send them a thing that says, here's how I work. And it's an intro. And I feel like it explains my process, my timelines, and revision limits.
Do you have to tailor that each and every time too?
No, it's pretty common.
Good for you.
I wrote it so it's like if it's depending on the client, it doesn't matter. It's more
Yeah.
like you want to work with me, here's and then what I expect from you, what you should expect from me, right?
Love it. Love
It's
it.
good.
That's so fantastic.
How about creating a feedback schedule? You sound like you do that a lot. You are putting dates on the calendar that say we are reviewing and we need feedback here, right?
Yes, and a ton of time preparing lists and cards within a project management system
Good.
of all the phases and subphases and who's responsible. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this one.
Low to high priority.
Yeah. I love this. Don't ask if they'll give feedback. Ask when.
When.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Or purposely file naming or sharing in communication V3 option A, V3 option B, so that they understand we're at threshold.
Yeah.
There are no more rounds.
Yeah. One thing I should say too is this is a two-way street. And I think here we are saying how much they've got to be on track with these things. So do we. And I think I've had those moments where maybe it was just too chaotic of a week or a time. I was juggling too much. And I feel like there've been times where I dropped it. But here's my thought. If I do drop it, then it might be an all-nighter or it might be me working the weekend
Sometimes we
to
can
catch
afford
up.
to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good. So
And
keep that
nobody
in
needs
mind.
to know.
I know.
You just make it work.
Exactly. Here's an interesting thing. Try client homework deadlines with calendar invites. Giving them a calendar invite for all those times.
That they need to have
With a
readily
Yeah.
prepared or available.
and you can
X,
give
Y,
them
and
like
Z.
a 12-hour what do you call it? Like when you do
The reminder
a
alert.
reminder instead of 15 minutes, make it like 5 hours
Yeah.
or 10 hours. I don't
That's
even
a
know.
really good point.
And ask them if they're okay with that. I would never like
Ahead of time.
send them
Yeah.
massive amounts.
I bet we would. I know that in the past I have been pleasantly surprised at, oh my gosh, please do. That would be amazing type
Yeah.
of response.
Yeah. Another thing too is using feedback forms or guided prompts. So basically asking specific questions. What isn't working? Which direction feels more in line with your goal? Whatever it might be. Like, I think that's a great way to go because it's like feedback to me has gotten better because I think also we're doing so much more walking them through the process. So when they get my goal is when they see the concepts, they are like, there's no other solution. This is it.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
But now you get into the weeds,
Yeah.
and a lot of times I think the best tip I can give you is always go back to your signed off mission statement and your signed off creative brief, right? Objectives. I'm sure you do the same, like, right?
We have to.
What should this site?
Have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're just undergoing this global site revamp where all feedback has to be logged on the spot in a meeting based on their device, their browser, the issue. Please provide a screen grab. We need a visual alongside the errors that you're obtaining and everything. Like, it's nuts.
Oh, wow. That's so detailed. You have to be that detailed, right? Makes sense. I only want to go through it once. I don't want them to have to like resubmit and be like, can you explain
just it.
point 4?
This is your chance. If you can attend, this is the one time.
Good.
And we're launching otherwise. So
Yeah. Yeah. Do as much as you can to take away any guesswork. I think even if you're
Yeah.
You might be a lot. I'm that person that's like, I'm so ready to hit send after I write an email. Now I just take a second and look at it and be like, is there anything else I need to ask them at this moment? Because if I don't, and they write me back an answer, and then I'm sending them another one going, oh, I forgot this date, whatever. Get it all in one and try to eliminate as much guesswork as possible. That to me just seems to work. Calling out scope creep. Casually, but clearly. Here's a great thing you can say. Happy to explore what you're talking about, but just a heads up, that is an add-on. Do you want me to quote you for that? Like, that stops. They might not need it any longer, right? They might go like, oh, I thought I could squeeze it in.
I know.
But most of them get it.
That's a good point. Like, we just recently went through that too. It's like, okay, in closing to a meeting, I will follow up with an estimate for that portion of the project.
Yeah.
Just so that nobody's in the dark and there's expectations set.
Yeah, that's a good one. The last one we got is have a ghost-proof policy. And we've talked about the ghosting a lot, but include an inactivity clause in your contract. Basically, what you want to say is, if I don't hear back from you in blank days, whatever it might be, the project pauses and a restart fee applies. And go over that verbally with them. Don't let them have to read that in a contract. Make sure you're saying it vocally, because no one wants to get hit with that. And I've never had to.
Okay, that was going to be my question.
I don't want to. That would be, I'd feel so it's icky.
Like, the expression being win-win. Well, that's like
that's lose-lose. It is. You're right. And am I going to be doing a second project with that team? Probably not. I could tell.
You're done.
And same with them, probably. They probably feel the same way, Yeah. But I think, again, it's like being as upfront as you can with the content and kind of anything you want, basically getting the expectations in the beginning. I feel like you can make some clarity with a lot of this stuff. And look, it's going to happen. The goal is to have it happen less often.
Yeah.
Man, crazy. Any last kind of words on this?
No, not that I really can think. It was refreshing to me as we were going through these talking points to bring up like, oh, that reminds me of another instance that I actually wasn't thinking about prior to the show.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
so
I always
true.
appreciate that.
It's a chain. It's like a chain of events. It's a branch. It's like those brainstorming, trees. Like
I wonder if it would be appropriate to list, all these because a couple of times we were like, oh, that's a clause. Oh, that's a clause.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to list them, and because let's be honest, I'm noticing over time that one might be suitable for you, but for web-based projects, not totally suitable for me, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So that might be cool to run through.
I love that. And maybe we should just have a running tally anytime we mention it.
Yeah, let's keep it and keep it maintained. And
is there a listener out there that remembers everything we've ever said?
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Oh my gosh.
If we've ever said something in the past, comment on that, because man, I think we can make a t-shirt out of recently added to my agreement, and it's just be this bullet point list of ironclad, you can't take advantage of me.
Oh my gosh.
I love it.
That's perfect.
If this has been kind of exciting and kind of right up your alley,
I hope so.
and but please share it with someone you might know. I think we all go through this stuff. I don't care if you're independent, you're working for a big company. We all face these things because, again, I think it's because, like I said earlier, sometimes creative is at the end of that entire thing. And then the next step is implementing it, right? Out into the world. And we have it last. And I think most of it is just for us to really stand up for ourselves, because we are at that kind of back end of the timeline process all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, great conversation and great topic, Mikelle. That was cool.
Yeah, I like it. I really appreciate you being open to it. And oftentimes with this, I feel responsible for my subcontractors that are part of my team. I need to protect them.
That's a great point.
And to be totally honest about that point is that I feel not only responsible, but if you want to keep the momentum alive with that relationship and continue to collaborate on future projects, you don't want to burn that one either.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's
There's so
true.
much at stake. It sucks.
I know. But we learn, I think the goal is to make it easier and easier each time, but you never figure it out 1,000%,
No.
right? We're always going to have
No.
something.
No, and I actually appreciate that.
Yeah.
Things
and hopefully,
are constantly evolving.
hopefully AI can find a way to eliminate all these problems for us one day. And we can just design. That's my goal.
I have a feeling it will.
All right. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.